Hello DIY designers, welcome to another episode of James Makes Clothes. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for subscribing or watching this video and sharing it with your friends. I really appreciate it. So let's get down to today's video, which is a single welt pocket for a coat. And I've already made the pocket, I've already made the coat, and it is a 1-inch welt with a 1-inch opening. Unfortunately, I've lined it so you can't see the pocket back, but it does have a backing in the same fabric as this coat. So if your coat pattern does not have a lining, pocket will still look nice from the inside. The pattern I've made up myself, but it consists of, and you'll see this in the video, it consists of a facing, a welt strip, and then a pocket bag. So it's only 3 pieces. Now you can watch this video and you can design your own pocket after. That is the goal of my video. Hopefully you can do one yourself easily and simply following my method. Thank you so much for watching, and let's see what's up next. So first, when you're designing a pocket, especially this pocket, you just need 3 pieces. So you need your body, and we've put fusing where the pocket's going to be attached, or where the pocket opening is on the reverse side of the fabric. Then we have our pocket facing, which we sew on top of the body of the fabric, or where our pocket's going to be, where our opening is. We sew that right on top on the right side of the fabric. Now we have our welt pocket strip. Now usually it's folded in half, so when you are designing this for your pattern, you do it so that it can be folded in half, and you have your seam allowance running around the whole outside of the pocket strip. And then finally you have your pocket bag, which is in self fabric, which means it matches the body of your garment. And then we serge along those edges there. So make sure you factor in a serge seam allowance of your design. So first we're going to draw the pocket opening onto our facing. This is the part that gets stitched down. So that's why we're drawing our opening, and we're also going to follow these lines when we stitch. So draw those with a mechanical pencil so they're nice and sharp. If you have the line drawn like so, you'll easily be able to see where you need to sew, and sewing these welt pockets require a lot of detail and exact sewing so that your pocket comes out perfect. Now, the middle of the pocket opening is where we're cutting it open. So you want to find the center of that pocket opening, as well as we place the strip on one side or one half of that pocket opening. So it not only divides the pocket opening in half and creates a cut line, but it also gives us a line where to place our pocket strip. And the part that's left in is the seam allowance of the pocket strip. So you'll see how I attach that, but first we have to sew the facing on, and these little triangle corners are also our cut lines. So we're cutting to each triangle point and then cutting along the edge of the triangle. And that's how we are flipping our pocket inside out. So you're gonna see how we press that in a moment. But first, just draw your line as so. You're not gonna see these lines. We're all gonna be cutting through them, so don't worry. And then that's how we're gonna place our pocket strip. And it's sort of at the top, it's at the bottom of the opening. Okay, so first, to attach the facing on, we sew the top of the opening, which is the part that I'm attaching now. I'm lining it up to markings, so I've marked on the body of my garment where my pocket is going to be. I've lined up the dots with the corners of my pocket, and now we're going to sew the top of the opening of the pocket down. Right, so we're going to do both pockets. You can see how I do that. That's what we start with. Now we flip up one side, place our pocket strip in. Now we have to line it up from underneath. So take a little bit of time to match it up perfectly, and it should be right in the center. You should have enough seam allowance around the outside so that you always maintain about 1 centimeter to 1/2 inch seam allowance for your serge, for when you serge it. So now we're going to do the other one, so you can see how I do that again. Okay, so now we've got the first stage of our pocket done. We've got our facing attached and we've got our welt strip in. So now we're going to cut open our pocket along the line that we drew. Now if we placed our welt strip in there, we should be cutting right along the raw edge of the welt strip. If you're cutting into your welt strip, you've placed it a little too high, but don't worry, you're just cutting into seam allowance. It won't affect too much of your end pocket design. When you're cutting the side that the welt strip on, make sure you lift the fabric so you don't cut into your welt strip accidentally. I've done it. It just makes it a little harder to sew, basically, because you're sewing into cut fabric. Now, the other side doesn't have our line drawing, so what you're going to have to do is just cut straight until you hit the stitching of your pocket from the other side. So it should line up quite nicely. You can see I'm kind of just cutting to the stitching line. Now the next part is to press out our pocket opening. So you're basically flipping the pocket facing from the wrong side of the fabric to from the right side of the fabric to the wrong side of the fabric. And what that's doing is it's allowing the pocket bag to be tucked right up into the wrong side of the fabric. So the pressing is very important. If you press properly, everything should line up nicely and you shouldn't have a lot of headaches when you try and stitch your pocket down. Stitching along your lines that you've pre-drawn is really important to stay within those lines, because when you cut, you follow the lines as well, and then you should be able to just turn your pocket inside out easily and effortlessly like so. What's going to happen is you're going to have to pull your welt strip through the openings on the sides where we've cut those little mini triangles, and you can see I've pulled those through. And now you have to pull the welt strip through the little openings and pull it tight, pull along the corners as well. And make sure you press that down with your iron. And you can see how easily that and how cleanly that is. Now, if you have little puckering points, it's usually the corners that you haven't trimmed into enough. So just trim those a little bit more and it'll release the puckering. And same with on the front. The front is just checking. If you've clipped and you've pressed nicely, you should be able to just go over it and smooth out any lines. And I'm using my Tide pen, my lovely Tide pen, to get rid of my markings that I initially did when I was cutting out the pattern. So you basically have done the pocket just like that. Now we have to secure those edges and that pocket strip down. So remember the edges of the rectangle that we drew? Now we are going to be sewing those, but in this time it's not on the surface. Everything is hidden now. So we go along the edges of the pocket strip within our seam allowance, and we stitch the corners of the triangle and the welt strip all together at the same time. Use tension here so that you get a nice tight welt strip. If you're not pulling on your welt strip enough, it'll be loose when you flip your pocket in. So you want to make sure that the welt strip is nice and pulled and it's tight, so you have a nice flat laying pocket welt. So once I stitch those corners and those edges down, my pocket's pretty much done. I only have 2 more steps left, but first we're going to get through the second pocket here. Now with this three-piece pocket, you can apply this design to anything, any part of your garment. You just have to change the design of the pocket bag to accommodate the way it's going to sit on your garment. So if it's more horizontal or if it's completely vertical, your pocket bag will change. You see how my pockets are on a diagonal? So my pocket bag opening is matching that diagonal. I could do that same pocket bag in a different location. I would just have to change the point or the orientation of the opening. And so I can apply this one pocket design to different garments as long as I switch the pocket opening. So all I'm doing now is I'm edge stitching along the outer edge of the welt strip, making sure I pull, keep tension along the seam so I get a nice crisp seam. And once we finish this, we serge our pocket bag on to our pocket facing. Now I haven't demoed that because I'm assuming you know how to serge on the pocket bag. But what I'm going to show you is how I stitch the pocket bag to the garment once the bag has been fastened together. So I've stitched it together. I'm making sure the pocket bag is completely parallel to all my edges, and then I'm stitching the pocket bag down. But I'm doing it from the wrong side because I want to follow the edge of the pocket bag. I've double checked to make sure that my pocket bag edge lines up nicely with my welt strip so that when I flip it over, the seams will line up nicely. Make sure you double check that. If your pocket bag has shifted and if it's not completely parallel with your body and you sew it like this, you could see crooked stitches when you flip it over. I really lucked out here, so we're going to continue with this. If you're worried, you can skip this step and just bar tack the corners of your pocket down so that it's not flapping around basically within your coat. So instead of stitching around the edges like this, you can just bar tack the corners down. And there you have it. That's our pocket. We are finished. I think the stitching lines up quite nicely. Make sure you clean up your edges and check your beautiful new pocket. That's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching, and check out my next videos for all the lessons in DIY design.